With version 10 of AwareIM, you now have access to artificial intelligence or AI capabilities. AwareIM now includes AIM Assist, Plugin Guru, and Data Maestro. Let's have a look at AIM Assist and the help on hand and config tool support it provides. The AIM Assistant knows everything about the configuration tool. It can give you advice about application development, provide guidance about the syntax and usage of every condition, action, or function, and it knows how to use every feature in AwareIM. AIM Assist is a powerful companion for any AwareIM developer. To start AIM Assist, you can click on the question mark icon in the menu of the configuration tool, or you can click on the Ask AIM Assist button when you open any configuration element. Let's check out the assistant capabilities and ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask AIM Assist, what is the syntax of the export action? We can see the response. I can now either continue the current discussion or I can start a new discussion by clicking the refresh icon at the bottom left corner of the chat window. For today, I'm going to continue on with the current chat and now try a more difficult question. How do I develop a personal finance application? The reply is quite impressive. The assistant can elaborate on each of the topic areas and allow you to explore further and better understand how to proceed. As an example, let me ask the assistant to provide more details about queries. What queries would I need for that? A second powerful AI tool we've integrated into version 10 of AwareIM is Plugin Guru. This tool can write Java code for custom processes and custom functions. So all you need to do is tell the Plugin Guru what you want, and it will generate the code in minutes. It can even automatically deploy the code for you, so now you don't need to worry about Java tools at all. Before we get started with the Plugin Guru, I'll double check what plugins I already have via the settings here at the top and selecting Registered Plugins. Okay, I want to now access and use the Plugin Guru, so I'll go back and click on Ask AIM Assist. This time, though, when the chat window opens, I'm going to go up to the top right and click Plugin Guru to activate the feature. And now I can see the Plugin Guru welcome message. So let me get started with an example for us. I'm going to ask the assistant to write a custom function that validates EAN13 barcodes. In the response, we can see the assistant generated all the Java code I need to implement the function, and it is offering to automatically deploy the code, which is fantastic and would eliminate the need for me to do anything. I'll select No for now so we can scroll through the assistant's response and see some of the output. I'll now manually deploy the Plugin Guru generated Java code. To do this, I'll go down to the bottom left of the chat window and click on the Deploy icon. This opens a dialog pop-up. I now need to specify the name of the Java package that uniquely identifies the function. It is a good idea to use the standard com prefix here, so I will go ahead and do that. I then also need to specify the name of the plugin, so let me use the default name and enter it here. If you wanted to, you could also enter or update the description of the plugin. I'll leave as is and click OK. The code has now successfully deployed. The Java code has now been packaged as a jar file and placed into the AwareIM/custom jars directory. However, I'll need to restart my AwareIM server for the plugins to become available. Okay, now that I've restarted my AwareIM server, I can now go back to Settings and Register Plugins and see a list of all the registered plugins. As you see on my screen, my new AI-generated Java plugin now appears in the list. If I needed to, I could easily delete it from here, but I'll keep it for today so I can show you how to use our new function in a business rule. Let's go to the configuration tool and use our function. I'll close out of the Ask AIM Assist window and now go over to the CRM business space on the left and select Process and then New. I'll enter in the name of my new process for barcode validation and click OK and create a business rule for the process. So let me do that and I'll name it Validate Barcode. Now, when I press F4, the list of all available functions is displayed for me at the bottom of my screen, And I can see my function in the list called validate_EAN13. Let's now have a look at our exciting and third AI feature, the Data Maestro Assistant. Data Maestro is different from the other two assistants, AIM Assist and Plugin Guru, in that this assistant is there for any of your end users accessing your AwareIM application. Data Maestro allows end users to ask any data-related questions, things like how many customers do I have, or how many orders did we receive in September last year, or even who is the top performing employee. For your end users to be able to access the AI Data Maestro Assistant, you'll need to integrate it into your AwareIM application. To incorporate Data Maestro into your app, you first need to prepare the application's UI. I'm going to use the CRM sample BSV to show the steps to add the Data Maestro chatbot into your app. I'm going to call this CRM2 as I already have a version of CRM, but if you want to check out Data Maestro, you need to name your BSV to CRM and set this up to use the default tables and not a separate database. Now that I have this business space, I'm going to go into it and select Administrator under Visual Perspectives. The Data Maestro for this business space has been set up in the right frame, but you can also use the left frame for your apps. If we go and look at the properties, we can see that the chat interface is a special option similar to a menu. We can modify how much space is taken up and whether the chat window is initially open or closed. And that's it. That is all we need to do to generate the Data Maestro chat interface. Now I need to train my AwareIM application to ensure it deploys properly and end users can get the full use of the tool. Please note though, that BSV must be in a published state to use Data Maestro. It cannot be used in test. Okay, I'm now going to click on my business space name, CRM2. That's the one I was using to show the setup process. And now that I have done that, I can now see that I have the option to check a box and activate Data Maestro for my business space. As you are navigating this process, and if you have questions, please click Help. You can find all the detailed information you'll need to successfully set this up for yourself. Now that I've ticked the box, all the business objects are available to me. First, I'll click General Instructions. This is where I would place any high-level instructions I want the AI to cater for. I can now start going through the business objects, attributes, and/or business object groups that I want Data Maestro to know about. However, I will not include objects, attributes, or groups that the end users do not need to know about. Once I've made all the required selections and entered in all the necessary information, I will then click the Deploy button. And as you can see from the pop-up, once I have deployed, my AwareIM account is now ready for Data Maestro integration. AwareSoft will automatically send an email as part of this setup process, and that contains the details of the AwareIM account. Once you've received the email, go back to your business space editor. As you can see here on my screen, once I'm back in the business space editor, the Deploy button will disappear and be replaced by System Values button. To make things easier for you, we have created a schema.xml file that already contains the training. I'll select the prepared training file and click Open. This will set everything up for me. Let's have a look at some of the training that has been done and have a look at the information that we've provided to the AI. Everything looks good. Now let's see the Data Maestro in action. I'll log into the published version of the BSV. As you can see, the default is for the Data Maestro window to be closed. So I'll click on the Data Maestro button in the top right corner to open the chat window. Now I'll ask it a few questions so you can get a better idea of how your end users will experience this feature. I'll start off by asking a simple question. How many customers do I have? The answer? 27. And that is the correct answer and matches with the information on the left side of the dashboard. Now let me try a bit of a harder question. Who do we have the most contact with? This is a question that I could write an AwareIM query to show, but with Data Maestro, I can let the end user ask questions of the data that maybe I didn't consider when the app was being built. From the response, we know that this is an AwareIM query because the response says Show Grid. Clicking this brings up a window that allows me, as the end user, to design the grid to be displayed. I'm going to keep it simple and just select first name and last name. And now we have our list. And although I didn't specify an output of how many customers there are, we still can see from the dashboard we have a subset of 27 customers. As an end user, I can also save this query, a user-defined query to developers, and rerun this query whenever I want to without needing to go back into Data Maestro. And I'm now presented with the option of rerunning this saved query. Now let me show you an example of how a more complex question and interaction will work with Data Maestro. In the data I used to train the AI, I included the detail on how telephone numbers are structured. So let me ask Data Maestro which area code generates the most calls. This is a more complex question that doesn't lend itself well to standard AwareIM queries. This means that in response to the question, the AI has created an SQL query to retrieve, count, and then sort this data for me. So I'll click the SQL button from the chat response, and Data Maestro will display the results for me. And I can see area code 839 has the highest call count. This is just a small example of the power of Data Maestro and how it can quickly generate responses to questions about the data that would have taken a developer a lot longer to craft and deploy for their end user. Finally, don't lose sight of the fact that AI will try to generate understanding from ambiguity. This means the more specific you are in your training, the better the responses and outputs to your end users will be. We're really excited about the AI features now included with version 10 of AwareIM, and think you will be too. As always, check out the forums for discussions about and support with AwareIM and version 10's AI features specifically, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell to get notified of our latest updates and news tutorial videos. Happy building!